Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Paul Turner with Retire in a Revolution. No, I can't even get the name right. RetireInAYearRevolution.com. RetireInAYearRevolution.com. All one word. If you want to head over to the website, you can get all previous episodes of this. You can get all future episodes of this. You can also get some bonus material that goes along with each podcast episode. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to make sure you get stuff. I did a bonus video the other day, and I'm going to keep doing bonus videos. So it's not all via the podcast. So I encourage you to subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast network and everything. But that's enough of that. Let's get on with the meat of this episode. I want to talk today to you about the magic thing that will allow you to be financially independent. Grant Cardone talks about it. Robert Kiyosaki talks about it. If you don't know who they are, look them up. Okay, I'm going to talk about them both a little bit today, maybe. Certainly Robert Kiyosaki. And if not in this episode, in the next episode, I'm going to share with you the thing that has made it possible for me, right? And we'll spend a whole episode talking in depth about that. But you need to understand that anybody, I don't care where you're starting from, even if you haven't got a penny to your name, because I'm going to do an episode on that as well. So again, subscribe. I'm not trying to just get you to subscribe to get my numbers up. You can always click leave, right? You can always unsubscribe. But there's more than you can teach in one episode in this. So today we're going to cover one key point, and we'll probably spend 15-20 minutes talking about it. If you can watch this on YouTube, you're going to be able to see graphics. If you can head over to the blog after this, you're going to see graphics. If not, don't worry about it. I'm going to talk you through. So let's dive in, and I will share my screen for those of you watching on video. And we're going to talk, first of all, about the 6 levels of financial freedom. So I just pulled this image from Google Images, or Bing in this case. It's one that I talk about a lot in my group. I have a group to support this, talk about this, and I'll also talk about this in another group that we'll come on to in future episodes. So for those of you that are listening on audio, there are 6 levels of financial freedom according to Investing Ideas. This is where this really great graphic came from. Level 1 is down at the bottom, and level 1 is where you're financially solvent. Means you can pay your bills, but then in brackets underneath it's got debt or living expenses. Means that that's your income, and basically you can afford to live, but you're relying on debt to be able to do that. That's where a lot of people, unfortunately, are. Okay, they've got credit cards, they've got loans, they've got stuff like that. Level 2, the next level up, the better level, is financial stability, and that is where your living expenses equals your income. So your salary, your wage covers your bills, but you've also got an emergency fund. So if the car breaks down, if maybe the boiler breaks down, if you have an unexpected expense, you've got a little bit of money put to one side to be able to cover and account for that, right? Next level up is debt freedom. That's where you're totally free of debt, excluding your mortgage. And then maybe because of that, rather than money going off credit cards and things like that, you got a little bit spare. You can actually put that into investing. You can start investing. Very important. We'll come on to it more when we talk about Robert Kiyosaki. Level 4, next level up, financial security and investment cash flow. Investment, again, cash flow equals survival expenses. So now you've got enough coming in from investments that if you stop working, if everything stopped, you'd be able to live, basically. Maybe not live fantastically well, but you'd be able to live, okay? Next level up, level 5, is financial independence. And what they're saying here is you want 25 times your annual salary saved, or 25 times your annual expenses saved, shall we say. So what you do is you work out how much it would cost to live for a year. You times that by 25, and that is the amount that you have saved in the bank. Or investment cash flow equals your living costs. So that's where the money that you've got coming in covers your living costs. You don't need to work. Your investments are paying for you. So you either add up all your living costs for a year, times it by 25, and make it a goal to get that in your bank. At that point, the idea is, from other stuff that I've researched and looked into, I've done a lot of research into this kind of thing, guys, and it just, solidifies what I'm doing more and more, that I'm on the right path here. How many of you, let's be honest, how many people listening to this podcast do you think are listening now to save 25 times your annual living expenses, going, oh yeah, brilliant. But the idea is then, if you read books, these financial independence retire early books, which are great books, fantastic, but they talk about at that point, you ought to be able to invest with the investment that you've got there. You ought to be able to grow it by X amount a year and take out X amount a year. And the difference will cover inflation. And you've got about a 95% chance of never running out of money until you die. About a 95% chance, not a total chance. So that's where you either go out and you save a lot of money. So most people aren't going to do that. Or investment cash flow equals your living costs. Now that's more attractive. But how long is it going to take you to get to the point where the money that you get coming in from investments matches what you live on? Okay. So again, it's a goal, right? And then level 6, top level, financial abundance, investment cash flow, just covers anything you want. So people like Grant Cardone, for example, if you follow Grant Cardone, he sells educational courses to help people sell. That's where he came from. He used to sell, well, he still does them, but he used to just sell like workshops. He'd go around and he'd do seminars on selling. And the money that he got from that, he's put into real estate. And, he's a rich guy because he invests in real estate. Now he sells training products. He also has people that will do follow-up for companies and things like that, because most companies won't do it. I believe he does social media. I know he certainly does. If you watch Undercover Billionaire, I know he's involved in that sort of business now, where he'll do social media for companies. All of that money, he only wants the money to put into real estate, because real estate, he knows, gives him a passive income. So you're getting the idea from that, guys. Investment. That's what they're talking about. Before we go into the next slide, let's just talk briefly about Warren Buffett, who used to be the richest man in the world. It's Jeff Bezos now, but he used to be the richest man in the world. What does he do? Berkshire Hathaway's company, what do? They invest in companies. So they get a share of all the companies they invest in. It's investing. And if you go, there's a great, if I can find it again, it's on YouTube, but it used to be on YouTube, certainly. HBO documentary about Warren Buffett. It's very interesting. His whole philosophy is compounding. Taking money, reinvesting it, taking money, reinvesting it, taking money, reinvesting it. Okay. But it's all investment. It's all investments. All right. We're going to move on now. So again, if you're listening to this, I'll explain it as I talk about it. We're going to talk now about Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He has a book, very good, called Rich Dad's Cash Flow Quadrant, and I've put a link to that on the blog, and I'll put a link to it in the notes here for the podcast. It's a very good book. I recommend you get it. The main element of that cash flow quadrant is what's on the screen right now. If you can see, I'll read it out for those that can't. So imagine you've got a sheet of A4 paper and you divide it into 4. You put a cross, big cross in the middle, divide it into 4. So you end up with a left-hand side with 2 blocks in it and a right-hand side with 2 blocks in it. So the first block at top left is called E, and that stands for employee. And this is so similar to my journey, guys. So you start off with a job. That's what most people do. You need money to live. You know, even as a teenager, whatever, you want to go and get some money. So you got your own cash that you can do what you want with. So this is where 5% of the wealth is on this side of the quadrant, right? Where people are employees. What do you get when you're fed up with being an employee? You think, I can do this better than, I can do this for myself. I don't need the company behind me. I can do this. Or you have an idea and you want to go off and do something. For me, it was search engine optimization. Okay, I did it in a job that I had for a bit, and I thought, why am I getting paid when I could be just taking all the money, right? So at that point, people become self-employed, and it says here, and you own a job. And I actually would question that, because you actually own more than one job if you think about it. When you go to a company and you get a job there, they kind of got everything sorted out. You know, they've probably got a sales department, a marketing department. They give you a computer, they give you a chair, they give you a telephone. You kind of got everything you need. The company has a website. When you go self-employed and it says here you own a job, you actually own several jobs. You've got to be the accountant, you've got to be the marketing, you've got to be the sales. You've actually got to do the work. And a lot of people don't actually like being self-employed at the end of the day because of that. You work longer hours being self-employed than you do being an employee generally. People think it's sweeter. Eventually you get to the point where you probably need to take on some staff, and then you get like staff headaches. So left hand side of the piece of paper, if you imagine it, you got E and you got S. E, employee, S, self-employed. 5% of the wealth is over on that side, and that is where 95% of the population are. That is where 95% of the people listening to this podcast will be. They will either have a job or they'll own a job. Employed, self-employed. Things start getting interesting when you move to the right-hand side of the quadrant. Now, the top right of the quadrant is B, and that stands for business owner, where you own a system. You now own the business. So a lot of people will go from self-employed to taking on staff, maybe getting an office, you know, and it says you own a system, and now you've got some leverage. You know, if you're a window cleaner, you can go and clean windows yourself, but you can cover more if you take on other window cleaners and you get the work for them and you get them to do the job, you pay them a wage, and you can cream some profit off the top. The problem is that they then think, well, I don't need him or her to go and do that. I'll just be my own window cleaner, and they steal your clients. And that's happened to me, and it's happened to people I know, okay? It's just the way it is, guys, right? But so you get those problems with being a business owner. Staff off sick, staff letting you down, staff making mistakes. You got to pay the staff, so now you need to make more money to pay the staff. But it is better if you can do that and you can build a proper business where you own the system. So I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying, again, it comes with issues. Now, all of a sudden on this side of the piece of paper, this is where 95% of the wealth is. The richest person in the world at the minute apparently is Jeff Bezos. He owns Amazon. Everything that sells on Amazon every day, every second, he's making a little bit of profit off. Okay, he's got people that pack it for him. He's got warehouses that he has to pay for and everything, but he's making a massive, massive profit. And he's the richest man in the world because he owns a system. He owns that. Okay, he owns the website. He owns everything from the website through to it being packaged. Fantastic. Okay, people work for you, but again, comes with headaches. The next level, and this is what Robert Kiyosaki is referred to as the sweet spot. This is investor, and this is your own investment. So this is where you take your money and you put it into things where it's going to grow. It's going to grow into more money. Like I just said about Warren Buffett, he wants it to compound, right? He wants it to compound. He wants it to grow. And when he takes a profit out of something, he puts it back in so it grows again. So it grows more and more. So we'll talk about compounding, but let's just finish off with this. I stands for investor. So you've got a sheet of paper, divide it into 4, left-hand side, E at the top, S at the bottom, employee, self-employed. And there's my phone. Don't they know I'm doing a podcast? Here you go. You're hearing this reel as it happens. Right. On the right-hand side of the piece of paper, you've got at the top B, and you've got underneath I. B stands for business owner, and I stands for investor. Now, this side, like I've already said, is 95% of the wealth. But it's actually only 5% of the population that exists over on that side that are actually doing this. 5%. 5%. So the takeaway from Robert Kiyosaki, again, fantastic book. I strongly recommend you do some sort of self-development or educational reading every day, even if it's only sort of 5 pages or something. It doesn't take long to read. That is the sweet spot. You want to be over that side of the paper. You want to be a business owner or an investor. Okay, or sorry, and the main one ultimately is being the investor. I like both personally. I like having more than one income stream. Apparently, the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. So let's just talk a little bit about the investment side of things. What can you do to go and invest? So again, if you're watching on YouTube, I've got a page up here. You can see if you're listening on the podcast, I'll just talk you through what I'm looking at here. This, I've typed into Google best high return investments, and it's bringing up a list of what, you know, should be in reality good returns. Let's just see if we can find out a typical return. Best high returns. Let's just see. Let me just see. Top 20 safe investments with high returns. Let's just see if they'll give me some figures on some of these. I wanted to do this live in front of people just to see. If it's going to take time, I'm not going to do it. Yeah, here you go. Look, high yield savings account, 100% safe. Most high yield saving accounts offer 2% guaranteed return. 2%. Okay, 2%. It's a great deal because of the risk level. Good for stockpiling cash. Certificates. Okay, certificates of deposits give you higher returns than saving accounts. Low risk but less flexibility. When you invest in one of these, you are committing to an investment time frame vary from 1 month to 1, 2, or even 5 years. So you're tying your money up, right? High yield money market accounts. Doesn't give me a return. I'm just trying to find some. There was one I was looking at earlier, and it was like 5% for the year. And I think that's what Cardone Capital, Grant Cardone, you can invest with Grant Cardone. I think that's about 5% a year. Now, again, it's up to you to do your own research. I'm just looking at these real quick. Let's just type in here, average return. I'm a big fan of doing this stuff live because then you know it's not made up. Average return. So some of them I know asking for thousands and thousands for you to put in. And again, a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people do, don't get me wrong. A lot of people don't. You go, look, minimum investment is £5,000 to £10,000. I'm looking at this one here. You can go and do your research, but I can tell you guys, there are not many places that are giving masses, like a fantastic rate of return, fantastic rates of return. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about compounding. So I'm going to take 5%. I'm going to look at 5% a year, which is one of the high returns that I saw. So again, sorry if you're on the podcast, I've got a sheet here. You might want to watch this one on YouTube later if you can. But if you started, okay, if you started in 2020, if you started last year, and you had £1,000, euros, doesn't matter. But if you had 1,000, okay, let's say $1,000. And you could grow that at 5% a year. Sorry, growth per month. Actually, that's not even. That's terrible. That's terrible, right? So they're saying 5% a year, guys. I'm going to go 1% a month. I'm going to go. How do I put this? I don't want to sound arrogant, but like 1% a month, right? That's 12% a year. Okay, but it compounds, I guess. So 1% a month. If you put 1,000 in, you end the year with 1,393. In 2021, at the end of this year, if you leave it all in and you can continue to get 1% a month, so this is like more than double what the high investment account was giving me, you'd have 1,836. Let's cut to the chase. Let's go 6 years. After 6 years, you'd have 3,564 pounds, dollars, euros, yen, whatever it is. That's so $1,000 in over 6 years at 1% a month, which is way less than the high interest yield in accounts that I've looked at, the high rate of returns. At the end of it, you'd have made 2,564, giving you a total left in there of 3,564, 3,564. Like I say, 1,000 of that was your initial stake, and you're just leaving it into compound. So as you can see, doing investment the traditional way, it's great, but it's going to take time. Now, on the subject of it taking time, how many of us, let's be honest, look back and go, I wish I'd started that a year ago. I wish I'd started that 2 years ago. I wish I'd started that 3 years ago. I wish I'd started last month even. Money loves speed. Don't sit and wait on your ass because you're going to regret it. I wish I'd done something like this 6 years ago. I really do. As it happens, I started something 4 years ago that was brilliant for me. Now, the reason I said I laugh at kind of 1% in a month is because I actually look to grow my money. Now, this is my personal target and it is not a guarantee of income. I actually look to grow my money by 3% a day. That's what I look to do. Okay. And that's what I look to help people do, whatever it is for them. As your account grows, you might do 2%, you might do 1%. But that's what I look to do. So take away from this episode, guys, it's a short episode with good reason, because I just want to make the point that investing is the sweet spot. Now, there's a price to pay for being able to do it quicker. And that price is that it won't be totally hands-free. Now, the way Robert Kiyosaki talks about it, the way Grant Cardone talks about it, the way Warren Buffett talks about it, is it's passive income. It's not really passive income. Why? Because you've got to do your research, you've got to set it up. And then ultimately you're going to want to check in on it from time to time. So it is largely passive, but it is not passive. If you want to be a business owner, there is a lot of work that it takes to become a business owner. Fact, just is, right? There's a way to make being a business owner a lot less hassle. And there's a way to invest a lot sooner, but it won't be as passive as like those guys talk about. But it can take minutes a day, but that's not truly passive. It's one daily task to be able to retire in a year, to cover your income. There's like one daily task that you want to do. The advantage is you can be an investor. It's the shortcut, guys. You can get to that sweet spot, the investor quadrant. You can get to that one hell of a lot. You could do it today. You can get to it that much faster. The disadvantage is it is not completely passive, but it can only take 20 minutes a day. And just like I'm talking about, looking for investments, you got to research them, you got to sign up to them. Some of them you may have to get approved for, whatever. Okay. There's a little bit of that as well at the start. Don't get me wrong, but this is what I'm passionate about helping people do, even if they're starting with zero cash, right? There will be an episode on if you're starting with zero cash, right? But I can do that. Now, if we take that 3% a day idea, we talk about this in the workbook. If you haven't grabbed the workbook yet, definitely go over to retireingayearrevolution.com. Okay, all one word, retireingayearrevolution.com. Go and grab the workbook. There are examples in the workbook. I'm going to pull one up now, and this is looking at a daily profit target, 20 days a month, but it doesn't have to be days. It could be individual sessions or trades, as you'll learn what we're talking about. But just to blow these things out of the water, let's talk about 2% a day with that same 1,000. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll do $1,000. You don't need that, guys. I show this on 100, right? $100. We'll start with $1,000 and we'll grow it by 1% a day. And at the end, if you did that 20 days a month, 1% a day on average growth, and you just leave it into compound, your $1,000 at the end of this year could be worth 10,892. If you do 2% a day on the same 1,000, the same level of skill as you're going to learn, the same process, okay, then you can turn that into, believe it or not, just to illustrate the difference, not an income claim, not trying to entice you in with big numbers, but if remember, it's 10,000 something on 1% a day. If you can do 2% a day and compound it, that's 115,888 at the end of a year. The good news is your money isn't tied up. You can pull it out anytime you like. You can get access to it in a couple of days. Okay. It isn't totally in your control. You are not handing your money over to somebody else. How many companies do you think suffered as a result of the pandemic? So all of these people, like in the FIRE community, financial independence, retire early, that are following the investment advice and they've got money in stocks and shares, how many of them do you think pretty much had a heart attack? Basically, when COVID hit and the markets crashed and pubs had to close, restaurants had to close, hospitality, hotels had to close. And then the knock-on effects, shops are closed, therefore manufacturing has to close. So many sectors health and beauty salons, hair salons. So many sectors have been hit incredibly hard. Delivery drivers aren't delivering, for the shops anymore. So many sectors were hit incredibly hard that companies were hit and their investments, people's investments went down. Awful, terrible thing, terrible, right? Once you hand your money over to somebody else, it is not in your control anymore. Next episode, we're going to get into the shortcut. I'm going to tell you how you can shortcut. I'm going to show you what I do. Okay, I'm going to talk you through it if you're on the podcast listening. I'm going to show you if you're watching on YouTube. And it's going to be a great episode. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks for listening. Don't forget, retire in a year, revolution.com. See you there.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Retire in a Year Revolution podcast. For bonus material to support the information you heard today, be sure to head to retireinayearrevolution.com. That's retireinayearrevolution, all one word, .com, and get your bonus content. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode, so be sure to subscribe and follow this podcast.